Florida and property taxes are making headlines, and now is a great time to dive into this subject matter. So whether you live in Florida, are considering moving to Florida, are just curious about Florida property taxes, this video is for you. So let's get right to it. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing for the eventual elimination of property taxes through a constitutional amendment that would appear on the 2026 ballot. This proposal follows a two-prong approach: an immediate property tax rebate and a long-term tax elimination. While the rebate is gaining some traction, the complete elimination has some hurdles and potential impacts on local government. So here's a breakdown of the situation. The immediate relief is a $1,000 homestead property tax rebate. And now Governor DeSantis has proposed a $1,000 rebate for all properties that are homesteaded. And this is a one-time payment, not a permanent change to the tax structure. And again, this is only for homesteaded property. So in the state of Florida, to be a homesteaded property, first of all, you cannot have another homesteaded property in any other state, and you must live in the state of Florida for 6 months and 1 day. There are some obvious impacts on eliminating property tax. First of all, eliminating property tax for homeowners, well, it makes homeownership way more attractive. One thing that Governor DeSantis keeps saying is that if you've owned your property for years and you own it outright, which many Floridians do, it feels almost like you're paying rent to Florida to pay those property taxes. So that was his proposal to eliminate this. Now, naturally, property taxes are a major source of revenue for local governments. So eliminating property taxes could significantly impact local and state governments. I have read that it would be between $50 and $55 billion loss in revenue, and that there would either have to be programs and cuts or raising other taxes such as sales tax. Now, I'm curious your thoughts. If there is no property taxes in the state of Florida and you do not currently live in Florida, would that make Florida homeownership more attractive to you? And do you think that actually the cost of homeownership could go higher just simply by the demand by eliminating this tax? Currently, there's a select committee in the Florida House that is evaluating proposals for property tax, which includes the rebate and the complete elimination. Now, there's a lot of discussions between Governor DeSantis and Florida House. And so what this could look like is anyone's guess. There's no definitive terms of what this may look like if it hits the ballot in 2026. And I would love to even see our property taxes cut in half, or maybe there's an alternative where we raise sales tax slightly and lower property taxes. So I don't know what they're going to come up with, but there's a lot of talk about eliminating property taxes. But let's dive a little bit further into property taxes here in Florida, because anytime you're looking to purchase a home in Florida, whether you're a Florida resident or someone new to the area, the first thing you look at is the price of the home. The second thing you look at is the property taxes. And on our MLS sheets, when you're looking on Zillow or Realtor.com, you naturally look at the annual taxes. And this is where it gets tricky, because being a homesteaded state, we can have two properties in the same neighborhood priced at exactly the same amount. And you're gonna look at that tax number, and one is going to say $3,200 and one's gonna say $6,200. And you're asking, why is there such a difference in these taxes? And how do you estimate what your taxes are going to be if you're purchasing in this neighborhood? So I'm gonna use an example of a $600,000 house. If you're home searching and you're looking at properties around $600,000, you're gonna see a variety of annual tax amount. And that all has to do with if the property has been homesteaded and how long someone has owned the property. In Florida, all homes are reassessed on January 1st. So whether you've owned your home for 10 years, you have a new assessment on January 1st. And if you've purchased in the following year, your property will be reassessed and your taxable value is going to be changed on January 1st of that following year. So if you bought a home in 2025, you are going to see a reassessment come January 1st. And keep in mind, in the state of Florida, we do pay taxes in arrears, which means that we are going to be getting our tax bills here in November for the year of 2025, and you will be reassessed in 2026. Now, there is a difference between assessed value and fair market value of a property. Here in Florida, we are taxed on our assessed value, and the way the county appraisers determine the assessed value typically is 85 to 90% of your just value. So as I said, we're going to use this $600,000 mythical house as an example. If you're purchasing this property and it's reassessed January 1st and it's 90% of your purchase price, the new assessed value is going to be $540,000. And for this example, I'm going to use it as a homesteaded property. You're going to be living in it for more than 6 months and 1 day, or approximately 6 months and 1 day. So in the state of Florida, you will have a tax exemption of $50,000, lowering your assessed value. So your $600,000 home assessed at 90%, minus your tax exemption of $50,000, all of a sudden your assessed value is $490,000. And here in Sarasota and Manatee counties, we have websites that you can go to put in your address, your purchase price, and you will get an estimated value. But also I'm here to tell you that you can also calculate that by taking your assessed value and times it by 1.2% for a pretty good range. Now my estimates are always going to be a little bit higher because I would much rather give you an estimate that's a little bit higher than a little bit too low. Now, using this same $600,000 home, if you're purchasing this for an investment property, a second home, Airbnb, vacation, you will not get that $50,000 deduction in assessed value. So again, $600,000, $90,000 assessed value. That is what it will be taxed on. And with it not being a homesteaded property, your tax rate is going to be approximately 1.4%. So you can see there's a big difference between homesteaded property for taxes and non-homesteaded properties. It's very important to know also that in the state of Florida, there's also Save Our Homes Act, which is even more important for a homesteaded property than the $50,000 deduction in appraised value. The Save Our Homes Act states that no homesteaded property can be reassessed at higher than 3% of the previous years. So this is significant in tax savings as well. For instance, in 2021, 22, 23, when our property values were skyrocketing, if you had owned a property for 8, 9, 10 years, you are not seeing these huge jumps in assessed value because legally the state could not increase your home's value by more than 3%. Now, for non-homesteaded property, if it's a second home or investment property, the Save Our Homes Act says that they can increase your assessed value by up to 10%, but no more than that. Now, there are times, as in the Great Recession, that the appraiser's office also had to lower some of the assessed value. Here in 2025, we are seeing values going down. Now, that does not automatically mean that they are going to lower our values because it really has to do with consumer pricing index. So we'll have to wait and see when those tax bills come out if we are seeing a decrease in any of our property values. So just as a recap, we are not sure if Governor DiSantis property tax elimination will actually hit the ballot in 2026, but as a homeowner, I think we're all kind of hoping for that, or at least seeing some kind of reprieve in tax bill. Also remember, here in Florida, if you want to get an estimate of what your taxes are going to be on a property you're purchasing, we have a website where you can plug that in, or as a general rule of thumb, 1% of your purchase price, of your just value. Do that and you're going to get a very good estimate of what your taxes are going to be. Typically, as a homesteaded property, the assessed value is 1.2%, non-homesteaded property, it's 1.4%. So I know there's a lot of questions when it comes to property taxes, and if I can be of any help, give me a call today. We love helping so many of you buy, sell, and invest in property here in Sarasota, Manatee counties. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, always work with a local expert.